Have you ever stood in a forest so quiet you could hear the wind in the trees? Now imagine that same forest filled with the roar of chainsaws. Here's the question: what happens when we start building roads into forests that were never meant to have them? Because right now that's exactly what the Trump administration wants to do: open up millions of acres of protected national forest to logging and development. Hi everyone, I'm Patrick with LoveLeigh Adventures, and this story could change how America's wild places look for generations. It's about a 20-year protection called the Roadless Rule, and a plan to rip it apart. Some call it common sense land use, others call it a disaster for public lands. So what's the truth? Let's break it down in simple language and talk about what this means for the forests we hike, the water we drink, and the wildlife that depends on them. Back in 2001, the U.S. Forest Service adopted the Roadless Area Conservation Rule. It protected about 58 million acres of untouched national forests, places with no permanent roads, logging, or drilling. Think of mountain valleys in Colorado, old-growth pine in Oregon, or wild rivers in Alaska. The idea was simple: some places should stay wild. For 2 decades, that rule has kept heavy machinery out of fragile ecosystems. It hasn't stopped all logging, but it drew a line and managed forests and truly wild ones. Now that line is being erased. The administration says the rule blocks economic growth. They claim removing it will create jobs and make forest management more flexible. In reality, repealing the rule means new roads through some of the most remote land left in the lower 48. And on Alaska's Tongass, the nation's largest rainforest where roads go, logging and drilling follow. Once the first bulldozer moves in, a forest is never the same again. Roads slice through hillsides, open access to poachers, and break up animal migration paths. It's like cutting open a sealed ecosystem and letting everything spill out. A single mile of forest road can trigger erosion, pollute streams, and invite invasive plants. Animals like elk, wolves, and grizzlies need big, unbroken areas to roam. When you divide that habitat, you shrink their world. Scientists say roadless areas make up of only 2% of U.S. land, but support more than half of our rare species. These aren't just pretty trees, they're the backbone of biodiversity and clean water for millions of people. Let's look at both sides. Supporters say it boosts timber and mining jobs. It gives local communities more control. It allows thinning to reduce wildfire risk. There's truth in parts of that. Managed thinning can help prevent extreme fires, but this rollback isn't targeted thinning. It's a blank check to build roads wherever industry wants access. Opponents argue that roads cost taxpayers millions to maintain. Logging old growth destroys habitats and raises wildfire risk near towns. Once forests are fragmented, they rarely recover. Right now, the Forest Service already maintains 370,000 miles of roads and admits many are in poor shape. Adding more doesn't make sense financially or ecologically. Try to picture this: 58 million acres is roughly the size of Idaho plus Maine. These lands stretch from Alaska's coastal rainforest to the Rocky Mountains and the southern Appalachians. They protect the headwaters of rivers that supply drinking water to more than 60 million Americans. Forests also store carbon, about 11% of all carbon captured on U.S. lands. Cutting them doesn't just release carbon, it removes one of our best natural defenses against climate change. Tribes, anglers, hunters, and hikers have all spoken up. For them, these forests aren't abstract. They're part of everyday life. They bring tourists, support small town and businesses, and provide clean rivers for fishing. A guide in Alaska put it this way: you can plant new trees, but you can't plant a 500-year-old forest. Even many rural communities that rely on natural resources oppose the rollback because they know short-term profits often mean long-term damage. Decades of research show that new roads are the #1 cause of sediment pollution in mountain streams. That mud kills fish eggs, clogs water, filters, and ruins spawning grounds. Road construction also costs more than it brings in for most projects. And here's the kicker: once a road exists, it's rarely removed. Maintenance bills pile up for taxpayers, not corporations. So this isn't a free enterprise, it's a public subsidy for private gain. Right now, the government is collecting public comments on the repeal. These comments actually matter. They become part of the federal record. In the last attempt to weaken the rule, over 95% of comments opposed it. That kind of public pushback delayed the rollback before. It could again. Environmental groups are preparing lawsuits, state governments are weighing in, and outdoor brands are speaking out because they know once these protections vanish, they're nearly impossible to restore. Even if you never visit these forests, they still affect your life. They store water that flows into your faucet. They clean air that drifts across the country. They provide a buffer against storms, floods, and heat. When we talk about public lands, that word means public because they're yours, mine, and everyone's. So when decisions like this happen behind closed doors, it's up to regular people to pay attention. The fight has gone on for more than 20 years. Every time protections are weakened, another wave of lawsuits and public outrage follows. And every time more of the forest disappears before the courts can act. This isn't about politics, it's about priorities. Do we want quick profit today or living ecosystems tomorrow? Because one of these areas are cut, burned, and paved, they don't grow back in our lifetime. So ask yourself this, when your kids visit a national forest someday, will they walk through quiet trails surrounded by century-old trees? Or will they drive down dusty roads lined with stumps and oil rigs? The future depends on what we do right now, this year, this moment. If you believe some places should stay wild, speak up. You can submit a public comment on the Roadless Rule repeal. It only takes a few minutes. You can share this video, start a conversation, or even visit one of these forests to see what's at stake. So what do you think? Should we open the last roadless forests for businesses or keep them wild for future generations? Let me know down below. I'm Patrick with LoveLeigh Adventures, and I'll keep tracking this story as it unfolds. Thanks for watching, and remember, the wild only stays wild if we protect it.